In this brief video, I'm going to provide an overview of an article that I wrote 17 years ago entitled Policy as Discourse, What Does It Mean and Where Does It Get Us? I'd like to thank the editors of Discourse for giving me this opportunity to make a few reflective comments on the article. Now, the article is one of several that I wrote in that time frame, 17 years ago, where I was reflecting on the particular uses of the concept discourse by different groups of theorists. The term had become ubiquitous in social theory, and I wanted to pin down the way in which the concept was being deployed. In this particular article, I look at how those theorists who refer to policy as discourse use the term. Now, I include myself in that grouping of theorists, as is indicated by the appearance of the word us in the subtitle, Where Does It Get Us? The other part of the subtitle asks, what does policy as discourse mean? Now, I make clear at the beginning of the article that I won't be arguing that there is one correct meaning of discourse, one correct definition. Rather, I build on the work of Alessandra Tannasini, who says that concepts have no fixed meaning. Rather, they are proposals about how we are to proceed from here. So with that starting point, I asked, what proposals about how we are to proceed are indicated in the various uses of discourse by policy as discourse theorists? In response, I suggest that policy as discourse theorists tend to position themselves as political progressives and use the concept discourse as a partial explanation about why progressive change is so difficult to achieve. Now, their argument, put overly simply here, is that progressive change is difficult to achieve not simply because some groups quash reforms, but because issues are represented and produced in ways that subvert progressive intent. Now, this argument is commonly developed in relationship to how policy problems or social problems are created within discourse. Policy as discourse theorists challenge the conventional view that public policy is an objective and rational exercise meant to address and resolve problems that simply exist, as in the common problem-solving mantra. Rather, they argue that problems, in quotation marks, are produced as particular kinds of problems within policy proposals, and that how they are produced has important political implications. Hence, the emphasis shifts from problems, assumed starting places, to problematizations. And it is suggested that by studying how problems are produced and represented, by studying problematizations, it is possible to gain access to and to critique the discursive practices, the knowledge practices that play such a large role in how we are governed. The point here is to contest the supposed innocence of problems. Now, in my subsequent work, where I develop the approach to policy analysis called What's the Problem Represented to Be, or the WPR approach, I pursue this proposition. In the article, I go on to examine further how policy as discourse theorists use the concept discourse. I identify a tension between what I called a focus on the uses of discourse versus a focus on the effects of discourse among some policy as discourse theorists. That is, there is a tendency to argue that powerful groups use discourse in particular ways, and that other groups, disadvantaged groups, are the ones constituted within discourse as needy or as lesser. And I argue in the article that this tendency to see powerful groups deploying discourse on outgroups undermines the ability to theorize resistance. Now, this argument is a part of the larger argument of the paper, and that's to encourage researchers to critically scrutinize the concepts they deploy, and in particular the futures anticipated by particular uses of those concepts.